I posted this graphic today and understandably and expectedly copped a lot of heat. But before we get into my thoughts and process behind this, my name's Jack Kelly. You can follow me over on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. You can also follow us over on Instagram at Pistons_Intellect. And as always, if you're feeling so kind, please hit that subscribe button. We just hit 3,000 subscribers today, and the growth this off season has been so fun. So I appreciate everyone that's joined, whether it's today or from the start. Appreciate all of you. So yeah, let's get into it. Basically, this is a lineup which I could see doing some damage for the Pistons this upcoming season. This is not the starting lineup. This is a five-man lineup, a mixture of five players, I think, could each bring the best out of each other and provide a two-way presence that maybe no other lineup on this team can on a consistent basis, based off what we've seen. Now, for context, the death lineup was kind of made famous by the 2017 Warriors, which had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, and Draymond Green. Four of those guys were starters, and Iguodala would get mixed in to close games. And it was titled the death lineup because the numbers were off the charts, and it was just kind of an undefeatable lineup. Now, using that phrase to describe this five-man unit could be seen as disrespectful, and I certainly copped a lot of that in the comments across all the various social platforms I put this on. But I think when you get past that initial phase, the reason I think this could be Detroit's death lineup is because, as you can see here on the left, I think the mixture of Cade Cunningham, Malik Beasley, Simone Fontecchio, Asar Thompson, and Isaiah Stewart give you the best blend of shooting, size, and defense. We all know Cade Cunningham. We all know the offensive game. His guy gives you 22 to 25 points, 6 to 9 assists, a few rebounds any given night. If he can turn it up on the defensive end, he's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. Like, he can, in stretches, be a really great defender, in my opinion. Malik Beasley shot well over 40% on three last season on 7 attempts. Elite shooter, elite floor spacer. Defensively, he's by far the worst of these five, but in terms of shooting, he's the best. He's the only one who gives up stuff defensively here. And look, he's still 6'5". It's not like he's an undersized shooter or something. Simone Fontecchio, average for the Pistons in 15 games, something like 15 points, 4 rebounds, few assists on almost 50% field goal and over 40% from three. Adequate defensively, 6'8", 28 years old. He's a veteran. You know what you're getting. And he can create a little bit off the bounce too. He can do more than Malik Beasley on offense, I'd like to think. So that's another added bonus. Asar Thompson can't shoot. Defensively, best on the Pistons team. Best perimeter defender, and it's not even close in my opinion. And he can rebound. He can block shots from the weak side. He can be a lob guy. He can play make a little bit. And I think if you put him at the 3 or 4, whichever one you want to put out of him and Fontecchio, I think that's an exceptional kind of piece to mix in with this lineup. And Isaiah Stewart, this was arguably, as always with Stu, seems to be the most controversial. For a start, people thought I was saying this is the starting lineup and Isaiah Stewart should be the starter. It's not what I'm saying. Jalen Duren should be the starter. But Isaiah Stewart is the best defender at the big position. Paul Reed, I think, is okay, but Isaiah Stewart's the best, and it's not even close, in my opinion, of the bigs the Pistons have. He's obviously, his potential as a defender isn't as high as someone like Jalen Duren or maybe Paul Reed because of the size and athletic limitations. But in terms of right now and what I expect in the upcoming season, he's the best defender, and it's not close. He's not an amazing rim protector, but he's not a bad one. Elite, he can switch. He's just a guy that I feel like hustles, works hard, good team defender. And I think the whole purpose of this lineup is, I think this is a lineup you can play against other bench units because, as you can see here, there's a very high chance Beasley, Asar Thompson, and Stewart are all coming off the bench. So you could play this five-man unit at the start of the second, at the start of the fourth quarter, and really put the points up on some teams and hold some teams, especially their benches, at ransom with some of the defensive potential I see here. So the key here as well is Isaiah Stewart's ability to shoot from three and what he proved last season and be a pick and pop big and a guy who can shoot threes from above the break really helps open things up, not only for Cade, but more importantly for Asar Thompson to kind of roam in the dunker spot. You can even run some pick and roll with him and Cade where you see fit. But ultimately, with Asar on the floor, it doesn't clog up the paint for Cade to go to work. And then you have two elite shooters in Fontecchio and Beasley on the wings that you can't rotate off them. So if you want to send help to Cade at the nail, then you find Asar in the dunker spot. There's just so much you can do, I think. I think there's so much versatility. Obviously, shot creation probably lacks a little bit. But like I said, this isn't necessarily my closing lineup. This is definitely not my starting lineup. This is just a lineup I think throughout games when Jaden Ivey's off the court, when Jalen Duren's off the court, that I think the Pistons can really go to and find some and generate some really positive numbers at both ends. And I'm really keen to see it. Like in terms of my curiosity, like the starting lineup is I'm super curious of because there's still a lot of questions around who's going to start, mainly at the two and mainly at the other forward position because it feels like Cade, Duren, and Tobias are locks. But in terms of a lineup from just a pure basketball sense from day one that I'm really keen to see, this is the one. Maybe I was strongly considered putting Ivy at the two, but I just don't think the shooting has come around enough for me right now. If Ivy starts off the season shooting really well and shows he can knock down, catch and shoot threes, then you could put him in for Beasley. But just as from what we saw last season, from what we've seen in their careers so far, I think this is a five-man lineup. That's not the starting group that I could see maybe even closing a game early on in the season. If Jalen Duren's struggling defensively, I truly think JB Bickerstaff's going to have no issues going to Isaiah Stewart and closing with him. So, yeah, that's kind of my spiel on this. I get why I get a lot of pushback, and I'm probably going to get a heap of pushback in these comments saying a lot of people said this is the lineup that will kill a lot of fans off from the team. So there's some really funny replies in there. So go check it out on my socials. But yeah, I didn't take any of that to heart. I kind of knew after I made this graphic and the tweet that it was probably going to lead to some criticism and ridicule because the Pistons are just like that these days. Unfortunately, that's where we are as an organization in terms of the NBA, Twitter sphere and social media sphere. But yeah, this is still, regardless of what people say, a lineup I'm so keen to see next season. And, I hope it yields some good results and I'll be back on here praising myself. But if it does nothing, you won't hear from me again. But that's pretty much all. I'm really keen to hear, one, your thoughts on this lineup, and two, a five-man lineup you're really keen to see. Doesn't have to be a starting group, doesn't have to be the closing group, just a group of five players you think could mesh really, really well together. But that's all my thoughts on this. I hope that makes some sense. And I think that'll do it for today's show. We'll be back on Friday as per usual. So until then, as always, go Pistons.